On one of my shorts that I released on my channel, it did mention about the rebuild of a Nitro engine. When I say rebuild, I don't mean like a complete refurbishment and replacement of parts unless needed, mainly because, as you'll see, this particular engine is going to be very hard to find parts for. Even though some Nitro engines have some compatible bits and pieces to them, depending on the size, make, etc. But what I've got here, this is this was basically bought with a RC10 GT, and the kit came with a working engine. On my channel, there's a video of my RC10 GT, my gas truck, running, so it was working really well. I refurbished it. I think from memory, it was 3 to 4. I bought 3 to 4 of these kits to make one original kit. So I've got loads of stuff for RC10 GT left over for spares, and some of which was another motor, another engine. It was just stuck in a bag, covered in grease, slime. I mean, I didn't even know if it was even complete. It wasn't until the other day I decided to have a look at it, dig it out and give it a clean. So this is the stage I'm at the moment. As you can see, I've done a deep clean with it. I've taken the sleeve out, and the piston and the rod, so they can come out. I gave them a deep clean with a ultrasonic cleaner, just running at quite a high temperature, about 100 degrees. Being aluminium, it's fine. Plus the sort of the cylinder sleeve, if you like. And this is what I've done so far. So it's been half put back together, and you can see that it's a very neat little motor. To be honest with you, it's a 0.15 in size, and if I turn this round like this,
even though it moves quite freely, a Nitro engine does need some resistance. I'm aware of that, and that's cold. If the engine's hot, maybe this particular Nitro won't work because it could be very worn. But having said that, the other engine I rebuilt and put into my RC10 GT felt the same. So it freely spun. There was not a lot of resistance in the piston and sleeve, and I have used it and fired it up and can run the RC10 GT, and it runs really well. So who knows? I won't know until I actually try it.
It moves really nice as well. It's very smooth, considering it's been sat. Hopefully you can see that. I'll move it a bit closer. So very free running. So I've just got normal oil in there at the moment, and I'll just move that to one side, and then I've got the cooling head, if you like. I have cleaned it around. It was a little bit grubby, but it's a very small motor. It's considering the performance of it. I think I had 44, 43, 44, maybe 45, I don't know, mph out of this motor in my other, the other motor that's in the RC10, the gas truck. So what I'm going to do now is I've got to do a little bit of work to it, and I'm going to sort of do this in stages. You can see the carburetor's missing and the clutch. So I've got like the clutch assembly, and I've got the carburetor, but that needs to be stripped and cleaned. So I'm not going to do that today. There's a possibility that I'll put these on. What I'm missing is the back plate. I'm not intending to run a pull start, so I want like a plug that fits in there, bolts on with the shaft, and it keeps the conrod and the small, I think they're called big ends, aren't they, on the bottom of the conrod, the big end bearing bit, although it's a small bearing, but you kind of get what I mean. The big end bearing sort of stays put because there's a plug that goes on, and I can show you one of those on a slightly different engine in a minute, so I've got something else to show you as well. Yeah, so I think the plan I have, but I'm missing some bits and pieces. I need to gather some parts. This is okay, so I think I can put on what I can at the moment. So I've got in this bag here. So in this bag there, we've got 4 head bolts. You've got a small shim, pretty much like a head gasket. Won't be needing this bit yet. This is for the carburetor. That holds the carb on. I'm not sure what that is. I don't think there's a part here. I don't think that's actually part of the engine. That was at the bottom of the cleaning tank, so that must have been on something else. So I've no idea what that is. And I'm going to put the little fixing shaft that holds the carburetor on, and the nut. So I'll keep those together. So they go into the engine. You can see there, it goes in there and it will fit in, and it pinches them together to hold the carburetor in there, but you can see. So I'm going to put those away. I don't need the carb. The carb will be a separate video. So what I'm planning to do is fit the flywheel on, fit the flywheel and the cooling fins, what I would call the head. It's probably, yeah, I think they just call them cooling fins, to be honest. So, right, let me just go and get some, I need some oil, a few bits, and then we'll attempt to sort of put this back together. Right, so I've just put the head, there's the little shim in there for the head, that fits in quite nicely. And then what I'm going to do is put the head back on here. Now what I'm also going to do, I've got a little tub of grease, and I've got the bolts, the head bolts. I'm just going to dab a small amount of grease on the bolt, and the reason is simply to make sure it screws in a bit easier and doesn't strip or rust in. So let me just put these loosely in, the head on, and it still turns nice and smooth. You won't believe that this is just, like I say, this was just in a box or a bag of bits, and all intents and purposes you would have thrown it away, but it's actually in very good condition. Like I say, I need to get one of these blanking back plates for these. It's very small. I have been looking. I'm not sure if I might have found one, but I don't know yet. I'm waiting for it to arrive. But it's trial and error, to be honest. But it has to fit in here perfectly. It can't be, oh, that'll do, because it has to sort of rest on the big end bearing, as it would be called, the one that joins the crank journal. It has to be a machine fit. So I don't know. I don't think anything will do. Right, so that's the engine part of it put together. Now here I've got the flywheel and the pinion, if you like, the clutch bell, clutch shoes. So we do need to put that on, and I need to get a wrench that's going to do the nut up on there. One of the things to make sure, if it goes that way round, what I might have to do is make sure these are on the correct way. So these, if you look at these, the flywheel here, I've got the shoes on there, they're unsprung, they're just centrifugal kind of way. So that, if I tip that up, that would be kind of on the engine, like that, and it's going to turn that way, counterclockwise. I'll tip it up on its face, so if it's going to turn that way, which means it will turn that way. And if that's the case, these will go out, and that will grip the clutch bell. So that's kind of how I would know that we've got this on the right way. Got the nut. So that should go on. That is on. It will go on. And I've got this tool here which screws in where the plug would go from turning. So I'm just going to use this to do it up with. I'll do that off camera. It's very awkward to do it over the camera. That will fit and it will do up, but it needs to be pushed on. You can see the gap there at the moment, can't you? So it does need to be pushed on a bit. So I'll do that within my reach. Flywheel's on. I've got the plug, or a plug, it's not the plug. It's got good compression. So that's good. So what I'm going to do now is just put the shoes on.
So here's a picture of a generic clutch bell. One of the things I was aware of is the flywheel wasn't on the crankshaft fully. There was too much of a gap, which I did find out because the clutch bell went on and didn't allow the shaft to stick through the clutch bell, enabling me to put the circlip on. So I had to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to screw the nut on a bit harder.
Hopefully that will go on. So I can see I've put them on at the minute, but this has to go through. Now what I'm thinking is that maybe this isn't on enough.
Finally, the penny has dropped.
Maybe this has to go on more. So this is where we're at. So I've got all these shims. Now unfortunately I had this tool, but it's stripped, the thread's stripped, and it won't hold in there, so I've got to get a new one of these. It's only aluminium. And that's supposed to screw in, hold the piston, so that I can do this up, the nut. It's not done enough. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the video for now. Bit of a stumbling block, but it hasn't stripped the thread in the head, because I put a plug in there and done the plug up reasonably tight, as I would if I was going to run it. it is absolutely fine. I will probably put the new tool on. I'll get a new one of these, put it in, and take this off. It doesn't done that tight. Take it off. Just make sure the collar is the correct size, and we'll be back. Now, let me just tidy this up. Before you go, I've got another Nitro engine here, which is more probably a kind to perhaps a 1/8. It's a lot bigger. It's a lot bigger than the other engine. This is actually a 0.21. It's a ZX 21, so I guess it's a 0.21. I've taken it apart just to check it's all A-OK. It spins really nicely. It's got the flywheel already on there and a clutch bell. That's already fitted, so I'm not going to take that off. Don't need to. It's got a circlip. What they're called C-clips on there. It's got a C-clip on there. Hopefully you can see that. Let me just see if I can turn the light up a little bit. It's got a C-clip on there. Now I have took a bit of time. I had to heat it up. I got the cylinder off the insert, so I'm going to clean that up. Got the piston. The piston does look a little bit marked, to be honest. I'm not quite sure why that would be. It felt reasonably smooth in there, but another project to work with. So this is it's a 1/8 scale buggy engine, and this is the plate that goes on the back, the backing plate, which I was talking about, which fits like a machine fit, if you like. So this will be, I don't want it to be pull start or nothing. Yeah, so I'll, not sure how and where I'm going to put this. It is a project to go in one of my other buggies. A quick one to end the video. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back for part 2 when I've got the tool to repair the other one. Also repair it, to completely rebuild it, put the flywheel on correctly, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much for watching.
Straight into part 2. I thought I'd add it all together as it wasn't a particularly long video.
Just to recap, this is the engine I'm working on. It's been rebuilt pretty much, but I've got to remove the flywheel. I think there's a washer that's got to go on between, like a shim between the bearing and the back of the flywheel, because it has to go on. It's got to go on a lot further than that, because when you put the end bell on, the clutch end bell, it doesn't allow for the circlip to go on the end here. So there's also a back plate to be sourced. I can use the one off the one I've currently got, but there's that one. So that's the OS 0.15, a Team Associated. There's the carb, so that's got to be cleaned. This is the 1/8 scale Nitro that used to go on the PB 1/8 pan car back in the day. So I've had a quick look at it. It's all well and good. Nicely built. It's got some nice compression. So that'd be no doubt going on one of my buggies. One of my 1/10. It would go on 1/10, would be a bit overkill, but on one of my 1/8 buggies would give that a go at some point in the summer. I've been working on this one. This is my, I can see they show the label. Now that is a Anman Racing. Anman. I've not heard of it, although I have got one in the 1/8 buggy in my Kyosho. This has been stripped down, checked over. There's a 0.15 again, so it's the same size as the Team Associated side exhaust. It actually would go on to my RC10 GT. Just a bit of reconfiguring the throttle linkage, which looks It's not that straightforward, but it looks reasonably easy. So we'll no doubt give that a go on the RC10 GT. So that's the Anmans, I think that's called. This one here was bought a little while ago. I'm not 100% sure the make of this one. I'll hold it up to the camera. Not sure about that one. It's a my understanding it's a 1/8 buggy motor, side exhaust again. It's got an RC10 GT type of engine mount, so it would go on, but I think the end bell's a bit long because the flywheel's got like a big space on one side and the other. So I'm not sure that will fit without any other further modification. And one here I was repairing yesterday. This is again an old side exhaust motor, and this one is made by Tamiya. Various motors or various kits in the past, Nitro kits would have had this. So that one had the sleeve incorrectly. I took it out and repositioned it because the exhaust port was closed up with the sleeve. I don't know how that had happened. But over and all, there's all these motors which will be used at some point. To balance that one there. There's a few other bits and pieces I have ordered, and that's the things like the one-way clutch bearing and the pull start. Most of these will be pull start, even though I should be able to start them on my starter box if the flywheel sticks through or can through the starter box. So that's kind of where we're at. We've got all these engines to sort of play around with. They're all in reasonably good condition. They've all got a compression. They're not all. I mean, the RC10 GT OS15 motor, which is this one. Maybe that could be a bit more worn than I realise. The piston moves very, very easily up and down the bore, whereas the 1/8 scale ZX21, the piston's quite tight in the bore, but you do need some element of pinch for the compression. It should free up when it gets hot, so that shouldn't be a problem. So that does concern me about the ones that move too freely, because as they get hotter you get what you call flame out, which they can't compress the oil, the fuel. It just puts the plug out. So we'll wait and see. So we've got 4 engines there. All the sort of the 0.15 sized motors. We're going to give them a go where I can in maybe the RC10 GT chassis. What else have I got? I've got a few other 1/10 cars as well, which this may fit into. The other ones are kind of dual speed though, so these are all single speed clutch bells. So to be honest with you, it's only really RC10 GT or the Kyosho MP5. That's a 1/8. I've got 2 other 1/8 engines that can try that one. So good. That's that one for now. This is just to show where I'm at. If you're interested in some vintage nitros, I know it's not going to be just as straightforward as fitting these in, but we'll give them a go where we can. And I shall hopefully see you out trying these out, or at least the startup procedure, as soon as. Finishing off now with these engines, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit more about each engine that I have. And they're all retro engines anyway, so the one you see before you here is from my understanding, is a Mega 3.5cc ZX21. Apparently it's there's a range of engines in this era. DS2, I think, DS2 Plus. I'm unsure about that particular stat. But these were used to be produced for the, I don't know if you remember, I'm going to put a picture up. which you'll see now, for the 1/8 Serpent Nitro flat track, on track 1/8 sort of pan car. These were, and still are, one of the quickest circuit RC cars that money can buy. Although, you know, a lot of the electric stuff now is as quick. Let's be fair. But it's difficult finding information out. You don't quite know where to look. You can be scurrying through the internet. There's a lot of forums out there which have lots of data dating back to, you know, the 90s. But you've got to know where to look, and probably just as important, who to ask. This particular engine, it's identified as running on a cold plug. The carb is a very simple affair. It's a 2-needle carb. You can see here you've got the high speed there and the low speed there. I have got some settings that's recommended for an engine of this era of where to set it. There used to also be apparently a Venturi which used to go inside the carburetor. So this is just like this is a massive carburetor for the size of engine. A Venturi would have gone in there. You had the option. I don't have those. Also, the engine, from what I can gather inside and sort of on the outside, is made from very high quality components, I'm led to believe. I have taken it apart. I've looked at it. It just looks like how I expect it to look, if I'm honest. But apparently it's the grade of material, or the metal that's, you know, the piston, the conrod, the crankshaft, are all made from high quality products. So the high speed needle, which I say is this one, I mean, it's just the starting point. I don't know how true this is, but I've only got it from, you know how true stuff is on the internet. It's recommended the high speed needle is 0.5 millimeter from flush in, and the low speed, which is this one here, 0.5 millimeter from flush out. So there's a mil difference between the two. But then I have also read that the high speed needle is 5.5 turns out, and the low speed needle is 7 turns out. I don't know. The chances of me actually running this, well, I will. This will go into, hopefully, my Kyosho. It might fit, it might not. The factor there is clearly where it's mounted, and the length. I'll get my hand out of the way. There's length between there and where this pinion is, clutch bell. Will it actually line up with the spur gear? Have sliding engine mounts. So in an ideal world, it could do with being not long enough, but I don't, you know, between here and here. But you know, won't know that until we actually get it installed. It must have had some form of pull start. It's a slightly bigger shaft, as you can see, but I don't have a one-way bearing that fits that at the moment, and also don't have a pull start that fits it. So hopefully, hopefully the flywheel will fit the slot on the chassis. But that's the first one. That's the Mega. That's a 3.5cc motor. Apparently it's a long stroke motor as well, if that makes any sense. I know what a long stroke is, but I wouldn't know even by looking inside this. So, okay, that's that one. We're going to move on to the next one. Very little about this motor. This is made by Tamiya. You can probably make out there if I just, hopefully you can see that on there, the Tamiya logo just above the lug. This I found out is a Tamiya FS 15S. You do get an FR 15S or even a 12S, so it depends on the size of the engine. I think this is a 15. The FS just stands for side exhaust, and the FR is rear exhaust. This has got a side exhaust, which you can see there. Now this isn't the proper exhaust manifold. I know they call them headers, but I call them manifolds of this motor. I do have, which I'm going to show you here, the original adapter that goes onto this engine, and I've got an exhaust, which I'll show you in a second, that should fit or should be on there. But this is the Tamiya FS 15S, or it could be a 12S. It is pull start, which I put on there. There's not a lot about this actually, so there's nothing else I can tell you about this. This used to be in quite an old Tamiya Nitro kit, NF or NDF 01, which was a buggy. There was two different types. Very rare. I mean, these ain't particularly. I mean, what I'll try and do here quickly, it's got a plug in it, so it hasn't got much compression, so it might be knackered. Let's try this. So it does work. That side of it works. I don't know how it'll run. Again, there's absolutely nothing that I can find about this. It is a slide carb, the same as the other motor that I showed you. Some are they twist. They've got butterfly carburetors. Again, there's a few settings on the low speed and high speed needle. Apart from that, there's nothing else which tells me anything about this motor. If anyone knows anything about it, that would be great, but as far as fitting it into a Nitro, maybe it will fit in my RC10 GT. I have no idea. Incidentally, I'm just going to reach across and get another exhaust. This is the exhaust that was supposed to be on that kit. I believe that this bit would go into there, and that would go onto the side. Problem is, I believe it should actually go onto the motor like that. To me, it doesn't look right. Well, maybe that's a rear exhaust, and that's the case. But I don't know. Well, it does. It would fit. It would go on there. But for now, I've just put this normal header bend on there. So this will go onto the motor, like that, facing that way. The car pointing in that direction. A normal sort of Nitro exhaust. I do know that exhausts are a major part of these motors, any IC motor. But yeah, it's all learning. So that's the Tamiya from my FS 15S. It could be an FR 15S if the exhaust is supposed to go out to the rear. I would have thought that that's the rear of the engine and that's the side, but who knows? Right, next engine. It's the third engine. We've got 4 in total. This is an Asman's Racing 15, which you can probably see there. Quite a simple engine. I put a roto start on this one, which does work. I have turned the roto start. But Asman closed their RC division in 2012 and went on to, I think, more RC aeroplanes. I have absolutely no information on this whatsoever. I've took it apart, it's very clean and tidy, so there's no reason why it shouldn't work. But as far as what it was from, again it's a slide carb, so back and forth. But as far as information, I have scoured the internet to no avail. So if anybody's got any information on this one, that would be much appreciated. That's all I can say about it at the moment. I've got nothing else to add. I couldn't find anything anywhere to do with this motor. So it'll either work or it won't. Again, it'll probably go on my RC10 GT if I can get it to fit. Here's my final motor. I've left this one to last, only for the main reason being, if you've ever been done up like a kipper, you know exactly what I'm going to say here. This was sold to me on eBay as a 1/8 scale motor, and on here I'll show you it's got an F at the bottom, so if you can see that. I thought, and I haven't looked at the advert, that it was a force engine. No. This is actually from China, Chongyang. It's a 1/10. It's 3cc at 28,000 RPM with 1 horsepower. But it's a Chinese make engine. So it's a bit like, I'm fairly up on what is a genuine engine and what isn't. This one, looking at it now, I mean, it's all there. I've had it apart, it all seems okay. Again, I've got another elbow sort of 180-degree header on that. I don't know if that's what's supposed to be on it. And it's got decent compression. The carburettor certainly isn't 1/8 scale size. It is 1/10, a much smaller carburettor. This one's butterfly, or whatever you'd call that. I'd call it a butterfly. That's how a butterfly would work on a car. It's not pull, like a slide carb. So this is I've been done by eBay, or the seller. The seller was actually advertising it as 1/8 scale buggy engine. It could well be. I would benefit the doubt. However, on the information I have, it's a Chongyang. They are on AliExpress or any Chinese supplier website. I mean, they're value. I mean, they're probably selling for about 50 quid plus the shipping. So, but I don't know what to do with this one yet. I mean, it's not pull start. I've just put that on there to stop, just to cover it like a dust cover. To be honest, I'm hoping that the flywheel will fit somewhere. Again, this one's got an RC10 GT engine mount on it, so it may well go in there. So I've got 4 engines in total. I've got a 1/8. The first one, the Mega 21, will go onto my Kyosho, and the other 3 will be trialled on an RC10 GT, just because it's a similar era to where the motors or the engines would have been. Apart from that, that's finished this montage of Nitro motors. I don't know the full extent on how and when I'll do these. Also, the history and the information on these motors is still very, very minuscule. It's only things that I may have found on the internet, and I don't know for sure whether that's correct either. So, but we're just gonna finish up with a little montage. There we have it. That's the Nitro motors that I've got, all vintage. Hopefully they'll work. hopefully I'll get them to work. I have had them all apart. They all look okay inside. The only doubtful one is the Tamiya one, which is the middle one. Well, not middle one. That one there. I'm not sure that it's got the correct sleeve in there. It was put in wrong anyway, whichever one was put in, and it seems to line up. It's only got it's got one sort of exhaust out. It doesn't have loads of ports, just for compression, and it all lines up properly with the carburetor. So to me, it looks like it'll work fine. No info on that whatsoever, other than what the make is. And that one there I was ripped off with, but I'll try anyway, if I can. They're all in different lengths. I mean, I haven't lined them all up absolutely perfectly, but you can see that the length of the motor is a thing. I'll have to get some more sliding engine mounts maybe to see if that will work. But anyway, a little bit of a history, a little bit of an update, not so much a history because I didn't know everything. I hope you found it interesting enough to watch, and I shall. If you didn't find it interesting, then oh well. You won't find another video like this on YouTube. I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.